Hi, I'm Emma Bellamy. Today I have something special for you. I'll share 3 short, beautiful stories that will touch your heart, challenge your mind, and inspire your soul. These aren't just any stories. They're perfect for improving your English listening skills while enjoying meaningful tales. And here's a little tip. Grab your headphones and enjoy this video wherever you are, whether you're relaxing at home, commuting, or taking a walk. Also, if you find the pace too fast or too slow, you can adjust the playback speed right here on YouTube to match your comfort. Stay with me until the end and let me know in the comments which story moved you the most. Let's begin.
The kindness of a stranger. It was a cold December morning in New York City, and the city was bustling with holiday preparations. The streets were lined with decorations, store windows gleamed with twinkling lights, and people rushed about, arms full of shopping bags. But for Maria, the holiday spirit felt distant. Maria was a single mother of 2, juggling 2 part-time jobs just to make ends meet. Recently, she had lost one of those jobs, leaving her struggling to pay rent and put food on the table. That morning, she woke up to find her wallet nearly empty, just $5 left. She bundled up her children and took them to a nearby coffee shop. She hoped to at least buy them something warm to drink on that freezing day. As Maria stood in line, she could feel the weight of her worries pressing down on her. She opened her worn wallet and counted her coins again, trying to calculate if she could stretch her $5 into 3 cups of hot cocoa. Behind her in line, a man in a dark coat and hat noticed her hesitating. He looked at her, then at her 2 children shivering near the entrance, and without saying a word, stepped forward. The man handed a $100 bill to the cashier and leaned in, whispering, "Use this for her, and let her keep the change." Maria looked up, startled, just as the man was turning to leave. "Wait!" she called out, but he simply waved a hand in dismissal and walked out the door, disappearing into the busy street. The cashier, touched by the man's gesture, smiled and said, "He wanted you to have this." She handed Maria the change from the $100 bill, more money than Maria had seen in weeks. Tears welled up in her eyes as she realized this unexpected kindness would not only buy her children hot cocoa, but also allow her to pick up some groceries and necessities for the week. Maria sat down with her children, handing each of them a steaming cup of cocoa. They laughed and smiled, their cheeks rosy from the cold. For a brief moment, the heaviness Maria had been carrying lifted, replaced by warmth and gratitude. Years passed, and Maria's situation improved. She found a stable job and was able to give her children the life she had always dreamed of. But she never forgot the stranger's kindness. One snowy December morning, while sipping coffee at the same shop, she noticed a young woman sitting at a corner table, nervously counting coins to buy a meal. Maria smiled and walked up to the counter. She handed the cashier a crisp $100 bill and said, "Use this for her, and let her keep the change." As she left the coffee shop, she felt a deep sense of fulfillment. That simple act of kindness, once given to her, had now come full circle.
Isn't it amazing how a simple act of kindness can ripple through time? All right, ready for the next story? This one's about a brave little boy and his love for music.
The violin on the sidewalk. Liam was just 10 years old, but he carried the weight of someone far older. His family had been struggling ever since his father lost his job and money was tight. Despite their hardships, Liam's mother had always nurtured his love for music. She had taught him to play the violin, saying, "When words fail, music speaks." It was their bond, their escape, and for Liam, a way to hold on to hope. Every Saturday, Liam would take his violin to a busy corner in the city and play for the passers-by. He didn't ask for money outright, but he placed his open violin case on the ground, hoping that people moved by his music would leave a coin or two. The money he collected wasn't much, but it helped his mother buy groceries and pay bills. One gray, rainy afternoon, Liam almost didn't go out to play. The clouds looked heavy, and the streets were quieter than usual, but something told him to bring his violin anyway. As he sat up on his usual corner, the first few notes of his melody floated into the damp air, cutting through the gloom like sunshine. Liam played with his heart, closing his eyes and pouring every ounce of emotion into the music. A small crowd began to gather, some shielding themselves from the drizzle with umbrellas, others simply standing in the rain, captivated by the boy's talent. Among the crowd was an older man with a cane and a worn trench coat. His eyes never left Liam as he played. When Liam finished his piece, the crowd clapped and began to disperse, but the man stayed behind. He approached Liam, leaning on his cane, and said, "That was extraordinary. Where did you learn to play like that?" Liam looked up shyly. "My mom taught me before she got sick. I just tried to make her proud." The man smiled and reached into his pocket, pulling out a small card. "I used to play the violin too. Come see me at this address tomorrow." Liam hesitated, but took the card. It read, "City Symphony Orchestra, Master Class Department." The man smiled again, nodded, and walked away before Liam could ask any questions. The next day, Liam nervously arrived at the address. It was the city's largest concert hall, a place he had only dreamed of entering. The man greeted him at the door and introduced himself as the director of the orchestra. He explained that he had been deeply moved by Liam's playing and wanted to help. Liam was offered free lessons with some of the best violinists in the city, along with a scholarship to attend a prestigious music school. Over the next few years, Liam poured himself into his studies, practicing day and night. The little boy who once played on the sidewalk now performed on grand stages, his music touching thousands. Years later, Liam returned to that same street corner, this time with a group of young musicians he had mentored. Together, they played for the city, filling the air with beautiful melodies. Among the crowd, an older man with a cane smiled proudly. Liam caught his eye, nodded in gratitude, and continued playing, knowing that one act of kindness had changed his life forever.
Wow, Liam's story gives me chills every time. Imagine how many dreams are waiting to be discovered. Let's move on to our final story. It's a tale of courage and friendship.
The Letter in the Wall. It was a warm summer afternoon when Emily, Jack, and Sophie decided to spend their school break tackling a long-neglected project, renovating the old barn on Emily's family property. The barn had stood there for generations, its wooden beams weathered and its walls whispering stories of the past. The trio, armed with hammers and enthusiasm, set to work, pulling down rotten planks and clearing out cobwebs. They joked and laughed, imagining the barn's transformation into a hangout spot for the summer. As Sophie was prying loose a stubborn wooden panel, something fell to the ground with a soft thud. It was an envelope, yellowed with age, its edges frayed. The friends gathered around, curiosity lighting up their faces. The envelope was addressed in delicate handwriting to "My dearest," and the date read 1942. They exchanged glances, a mix of excitement and wonder. What secrets could it hold? With care, Emily opened the envelope and pulled out the letter inside. The handwriting was elegant, yet hurried, as if the writer had poured their heart onto the paper in one sitting. The letter was from a soldier named James, writing to his fiancée, Eleanor, before leaving for the war. It spoke of love, hope, and a promise to return no matter what. James had written about their dreams of a future together, a small house in the countryside, and the family they would build. But something was missing. There was no address for Eleanor, no clue as to why the letter had been hidden in the wall and never sent. The friends were hooked. Who was Eleanor? Did she ever hear from James again? Determined to uncover the truth, they set out on a mission. They scoured the local library for records and visited historical archives, piecing together clues. After days of research, they found an address for an Eleanor living in a nearby town, now in her late 90s. With the letter in hand, they decided to visit her. When they arrived, Eleanor greeted them with a warm but curious smile. She had lived alone for years, her home filled with photographs and trinkets from a life well lived. When Emily explained why they were there and handed her the letter, Eleanor's hands trembled as she held it. Her eyes filled with tears as she read James's words, her voice barely a whisper. "This is from James," she said, her gaze distant. "He promised he'd write, but I never heard from him again. I waited for years, always hoping, never knowing." Eleanor explained how she and James had been childhood sweethearts. When he left for the war, they had planned to marry upon his return. But as the years passed and no letters came, Eleanor had assumed the worst. She had never married, keeping her memories of James alive in her heart. The friends felt a bittersweet mix of emotions, relief that Eleanor finally had closure, but sadness for the love story that had been left unfinished. They stayed in touch with her, visiting often, and even helped her share her story in a local newspaper. The article reached a wider audience, and through it, they discovered more about James's fate. He had died heroically, saving his entire unit in battle. The news brought Eleanor both sorrow and pride. Her James had been a true hero. But the story didn't end there. Inspired by the friends' dedication and Eleanor's resilience, the community rallied together. They restored the barn where the letter had been found, turning it into a small museum honoring local stories of love and sacrifice during the war. A section was dedicated to James and Eleanor, displaying the letter, photographs, and a plaque that read, "A love that transcended time." Eleanor became a local icon, often visiting the barn and sharing her story with visitors. The friends, now older, remained close, forever bonded by the extraordinary journey they had shared. And every summer, the barn filled with laughter and memories, just as it had that fateful day when three curious friends uncovered a piece of history hidden in the walls.
Stories like these remind us of the beauty, bravery, and kindness in the world. Which one did you connect with the most? And which voice did you sound better in? Let me know in the comments, and while you're there, say hello in your language. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more inspiring stories and English lessons. See you next time.